We have not had a late IHP show in quite some time, so here it is on the cusp of our 1122 portal. So I'm going to integrate some mystic woo-woo stuff, 5D mystic here. So that means I'm a whole 3-year-old heart, which means I have an integrated brain and a restorative embodied self. So when I look in somebody's eyes, I don't have trauma memory lingering in my brain or any trauma safety behavior responses, and so I'm working from my higher functioning brain areas, and I will be present and I will not be assuming anything. If there's any type of implicit sensation that arises, it won't be applied, but it will be held. So we all have implicit bias, but that's really for those who get ego sensitive. When you're life sensitive, which is what a healthy true self-empowered person is, which means I'm not superior and inferior to you. I have healthy self-worth. Thank you, Terry Real, for that. And I don't do failing in the self-worth arena. I do inner growth mindset. So I don't do inner critic or outer critic, which is actually a shame cycle. Don't do the compulsive activities of drugs, sex, food, alcohol, food, procrastination. Basically, where if I'm stressed, I go and do things. I know that I'm stressed and I self-regulate, or I find an in-between. So the people who are in the ability to easily handle their nervous system is what I talk about as a 3-whole-year-old. And you can do that on your own for some, and others with a good trauma therapist that can hold space for your inner child. So that means EMDR with child parts and somatics, because those three work with your actual wholeness, as well as though having a good therapist, which means they don't label you and say you're a fixed category. They're not from the 90s, so they don't think, oh, if you got the gene, that's it, you're done with. That's ancient history. Some people know about the updated good 5D educators. So that's good attachment researchers and therapists, physicians and therapists and neuroscientists, neurobiology. So essentially, any person who's a whole 3-year-old heart, let me do it right, there you go, is a 5D educator or 5D mystic. That oneness consciousness, it's called Christ consciousness because, you know, Christ, putting to the side the scripture, stood for forgive them, for they do not know. Walk with all the people. And he actually stood as a whole masculine feminine, meaning a whole person. Left and right mode of your brain, masculine, chit-chatter, breaking everything down, feminine, sitting with the unknown uncertainty. In fact, some neuroscientists, the ones who continue learning, will say, the self is on the right side of your brain, the right mode. So they work together, but only if your corpus callosum is actually effectively working. And that's why yoga, meditation, mindfulness, and all of the lovely compassion-based interventions, secular or not, work. They grow your corpus callosum, they grow your prefrontal cortex, and they grow your hippocampus, and they grow your connectome. And those 4 aspects of the brain are actually impeded in their growth in that first year of life and in your infant life. And if you have developmental trauma, I believe is what it's called, those first 7 years. So developmental trauma happens within the first 7 years of a person's life. And that first year, only your right mode of the brain is online from different pieces of research. So guess what, people? We're all a right mode emotional being. A lot of people don't know their 3-year-old leads them, which is why the brokenhearted, and it's a figure of speech, but attachment wounds, trauma memory lingering in the brain, and more. I've seen 4D Collective, yes. They really need to learn about structural dissociation. I've seen it happen. I actually even tried to support people mentioning it, but I got basically, no, it's because other people, the projection bit, don't know how to live human life. It's not because I don't know how to regulate my nervous system, because I might not have secure attachment, or I might not have healthy self-empowerment, or I might not have healthy self-worth, which means I might not know how to easily love myself, and I might instead be a person who, when you hear love yourself first, I'm confused about that, and it's a shaming letdown, which means you didn't have a child-centric environment, which means, thank you, Patrick Teahan, childhood trauma survivor, healed, and therapist. And I always say also healing because I don't know his full story, but I know he has a community online And he's a therapist, and he has a bunch of great content, and one of which he specifies how if you come and have childhood trauma, if somebody says, love yourself first, and by the way, Terry Real, another great therapist, I don't know his story, but he also says it's confusing. I'm like, wait a minute. For some of us, it's not. I didn't find it confusing. I know how to love myself. Actually, go ask my lovely mother how many times she gets to tell me, I should have spanked you. Sometimes you're rude. I'm like, no, I'm just an adult who's speaking my mind. But okay, I'll work on my 3-year-old tone, because I get rigid and my 3-year-old tone comes up. So you're right. Oh, agency is my preferred driver out of bonding and certainty, and agency brings up anger, which I don't feel I am personally. Here's a side share, but the tone is quite with a punch. So I'm still learning how to be a polite grown-up with my lovely mother. We will interview her one of these days to say that I don't take my 3-year-old and project it out. No, I only take it up with the one individual who I actually lived my 3-year-old life with, and that's why it's great to have an oversoul. It's a playground, and I get to patiently work with my ventral vagal nervous system. Thank you, Stephen Porges. So guess what? Our 3-year-old heart, while some people say that saying, right, we wear it on our sleeve, we actually wear it on our face. And the beauty, so 11:22, we have some channeled guidance. It's a little bit unique from our usual. It'll be out tomorrow, meaning later, in about a half an hour in European time zone time, depending where you're at. And back to what we were talking about. So if you find it ewy, yucky, to love yourself first, or confusing, or a shame, let down, you should understand that there's something called childhood trauma that lingers, and that equates defectiveness, shame, and here gut wrench, self-loathing, a lot of things that go on within, and there's an attachment system. So there's a lot of great therapists that help people out, and there's a lot of personal development that also support. And so compulsiveness, there's nothing to be ashamed of. Actually, there's no, the whole devil, demon, temptation, sin, the ancient text, that's for people who want to remain primarily within their institution. So remember that we have some people who want the silverbacks as their leaders. So their 3-year-old hearts, they're actually, I want to be the perfect child, and I want to soothe, and I actually think of subject matters in pedestals, and oh, there's my pedestal, and they stay rigid, and they follow their leader, and there you go. We have culty cults, ethical cults, traditional cults. We have people who do go through transformation instead of becoming moderate. When in their REM sleep, they actually get into that lovely ability to use REM to gather disparate ideas. Thank you, Patrick McNamara. The Religious Self, you all should watch his interview. It's really great, where he explains there's no demon that possesses a person when there's a nightmare after nightmare after nightmare. Oh, and REM can erupt in daytime state. And as a channeler, I know all about REM erupting during the night and in daytime state. Any person with clairs does, but the difference for 5D is we don't actually have trauma memory lingering. So we don't have nightmares. We don't do the fear receptor wonkiness. If we have any type of nightmare, because I've had dreams that one would consider nightmarish, but I wasn't like, oh my God, I didn't wake up and be like, it's real, it's real, it's true, it's happening, we're in spiritual warfare. No, I was like, wow, that was an interesting one. No, I just, interesting. Let me process the emotions. Let me work with my nervous system. Let me drink some water. Let me eat. Let me drink. How'd I feel? I'm energized. Cool. It was a dream. It was more than just a dream, as a mystic again, but it was just a dream. Quantum physics, I think it's particle physics that explains the whole 12 dimensions. And we do have an episode on Beyond 12 States of Consciousness. It's really amazing. Secure attachment, which means a restorative embodied self person with an integrated brain. So it's an unconditionally loving human being. I have flaws and imperfections, and a 3-year-old leading the way, but I know how to be a quantumist because I put into practice my left and right mode as I got from teenage year. The last charged child part is 14, 15, 16. It's the fight one. If you make friends with your 0-1-year-old, you're really good with yourself, and then you can say, hey, Kali, stand down, come on in, Shiva, Krishna Lila, come on over, inner child, bring yourself forth and be an open, spontaneous, and here you go. A full-blown heart that loves all people. Have a wonderful day, everyone. 11:22, important numbers. Your oversoul is your family. That's immediate, intimate, and extended. Your body is the first part to have intimacy, and then you can also have relationships, presence, attunement, resonance, and trusting. Tune in for more.